So, the first thing I want to say is hello, welcome, welcome back to some of you. For those that are watching this for the first time, that are hearing my voice for the first time, or seeing my face for the first time, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kaya, um, and this has been a journey that's taken almost 3 years for us to get here. Um, so let me just break down what it is that I'm trying to do here and what the aim and the focus is. So this podcast is called Growing Pains. And when I thought of the name initially, because I did have a podcast before, it was under a different name. The journey that I took with that podcast led me to stopping and creating a new one with the new name. So the journey started in 2021. This is now after a year of COVID, being at home pretty much all the time, not being able to leave, being forced to sit with your thoughts, which I know for a lot of us isn't an easy thing to do. Like it really isn't. Um, I then found it to be rather peaceful for me. I was able to look back on the things that I'd experienced in life before. And considering what COVID was, I never knew who I was going to lose. So I felt like this was something that other people were feeling just based off of what people were posting on their stories on Instagram, their WhatsApp statuses, Twitter, etc. So I said, you know what, fuck it, let's create a podcast. It was called Chief Chats, um, and I came up with that name because Chief is something I got from my father. Growing up, um, my dad, if he's asking me to do something, fetch him something, he'd always say, "Hey, Chief, can you help me with this?" And then I took that and I made it my own name per se, because my name on Instagram is Kaya Chief. So Chief Chats was something I thought was kind of slick, and I got a lot of support in the beginning. A lot of my friends were telling me, "Yeah, no, man, because you're the one that's always asking these deep questions. You're the one that's always trying to understand stuff. You're the one that's always teaching us. So like obviously we're gonna listen." I said, okay. So I bought a lot of equipment. I bought two microphones, I bought two microphone stands, I bought some box like audio plug-in input thing from some famous brand like M Audio. So I thought, yeah, no, we're about to like make it and make it big. I plug all the things in. I make sure I do my mic check, tap on the mic like, and then as we're recording, like this is me now, the first time recording by myself, I hear like static in the background, and I don't know how to stop it. I'm not a sound engineer. I'm not learned on these things. It's literally me freestyling. So I'm trying everything. I had a friend, well, I still have a friend. Um, he is a DJ, and I sent him a message. I was like, "Yo, dude, I've got this audio file." I gave him a sample of the episode of that podcast, and I said, "Yo, is there any way that you could edit out the sound?" Remember now, I don't have any experience with editing. My friend's a DJ, so I'm just assuming that he knows something about the sound. He said, "No, send it through, and I'll see what I can do." He sends it, like he tries to get that bleeding sound out, but it's still there in the back, like a did it did, that kind of a sound in the background. But in that episode, I was speaking about relationships, looking at how they don't really exist in the way that they should. looking at how social media's influenced people's perspectives on how a relationship should be. So instead of it being a relationship for you, it's a relationship based on an external perspective on what you should like, which isn't necessarily the same thing. It's not organic. But, I went for 26 minutes. I was recording and we were talking. Well, I was talking and rambling, but I was trying my best to make it make sense, just like I'm trying to do here. And I posted it on Apple Podcast, and I did say in the bio, I was like, there were some technical difficulties, but we worked as hard as we could to eliminate it as much as possible. But apart from that, I hope you enjoy the content. I got a lot of reviews, mostly from my friends and my family. Um, and I remember within a month, it got 150 downloads. So that gave me the idea that there were people that wanted to listen to something relating to this. Perhaps they didn't know how to describe it. So, with what I was doing, I was basically helping them see it for themselves or hear it. But then, as the year went on, 2021, I was obviously still studying at the time, doing my undergrad. And it was difficult because I was doing my undergrad in psychology. Well, psychology and sociology, those are my double majors. And it was so much content to consume just from school that I didn't have the time. And people would ask me, like, yo, when's your next episode coming out? I want to hear what you have to say. So I tried, but that bleeding sound that I was talking about just never went away. And I didn't want to give people lackluster content. So I decided that I'm not going to do it anymore. I guess for me, it was trying to make everything perfect before I give it away. I don't want you to take my content when it's not as good as I know it can be. And there was also the fear that if I keep posting content and it still has this weird sound in the back, then people are probably going to think that, yeah, dude, like, I can't keep listening to you if there's this thing that's irritating my ear. So I left it alone. And then the year went by. And as I said, it was still COVID, right? So the year's towards the end. And I get an email from my university that said that we've now been invited to come back to campus. So I was like, okay, this looks like a change that's happening. Um, and then in that same year, there was a girl I was speaking to, and she was something I needed at that point in time because it felt like everything that I'd ever wanted someone to say to me, she was saying to me without like the issue of it being me pursuing it too much or her pursuing me too much. It was natural, it was organic. And we were speaking for 3 months. I made her my girlfriend. Um, December comes. I'm now obviously realizing, yo, like, I have to start looking at places to stay when I get back down to Cape Town because I'm from Pretoria. And I don't know, things just started shifting. And I couldn't, for the life of me, I couldn't understand what was going on because I try and speak to her, ask her questions. What's wrong? How can I help? She wasn't with it. And January comes, my birthday, which is on the 5th. I I go out. Well, my friends take me out of the house, and they keep me for as much time as they could. I get back home rather late, and some things go on. Uh, Me and my dad, we have a sort of argument. And then I go to my room, and then I was speaking to my girlfriend at the time, and I was pretty much venting, letting her know that this is just like on my birthday. Like, really, bruh, like, you're gonna fight me on my birthday, really? And then I said to her, I can't wait till I move to Cape Town so I can just, have my own space. Yo, what she said to me after that gave me like shell shock. She said about that, and I was like, yeah, I don't know how we're gonna do this. I said, yeah, no, look, like, obviously things are like, we've been together for a while, about like 4-ish months or so at that point. And I mean, yeah, we haven't been together long enough for it to be like extremely tight, but like, you already knew months before that I was gonna move back. So it's not like I'm trying to like force something on you. Like, you were told that this was gonna happen. She's like, yeah, I'm not really sure. So then I say, what? Like, are you trying to break up with me? And she said, I don't know. But the way she said it made me feel like there was something behind that I don't know. So I was like, no, like, if we're really gonna like do this, then let's just do it and get it over and done with. And then she's trying to kick up a fuss, and I'm like, if you want this to be over, just say so, because like, I have to like look at moving back, and I don't want to have to think about you being in or out, like 50-50. It's like, okay, then we agreed that it was over. Cool. Mind you, this is on my birthday. And this isn't me trying to bash her in any way, shape, or form. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm explaining the story of how I came up with growing pains. So the next day, um, we're sitting in the kitchen. It's me, my mom, my brothers, and my dad. And out of the blue, I just start bawling. Like, I mean, I don't cry often. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to prove that I'm macho. I'm not. Um, but crying for me is I won't say difficult thing, but it does take a lot of effort for me to let out those kinds of tears. But that day, I couldn't hold it. I think also partly because I didn't want to go back to Cape Town because I don't really like the city. That's another chat for another day. Now, piling on top of that, the fact that I broke up with my girlfriend on my birthday, I was in tatters. I mean, the kind of cry where you can't breathe. And even when you do, you can't take a deep breath. It's like and that's you trying to breathe, but that's all that you can get in your lungs. My mom was, she was confused. She was shocked. She didn't know what to do. She was asking like, what can I do? What's wrong? Like, drink water. As I'm drinking, I'm choking because I'm coughing now. It was bad. And then like, what happened? Then I told her, no, me and this girl broke up. I'm like, oh. I was like, yeah. So I guess they tried to, lift my spirits up. It helped. We then fast forward to now me moving to Cape Town. I'm like accepting that, okay, like, this is something I have to do. It's my final year of my undergrad. I have to like get there early, push so that I can get into my honors, and then, 2 weeks before I have to move back, my aunt passes. This aunt I was very close to, very, very close to. Her daughter, my cousin, is pretty much my sister. And yo, I couldn't, I couldn't do anything in that moment. It felt like I was just getting better, and then this happened. And I was like, ugh. You know, time goes by, and then I remember the day I was flying back to Cape Town was the day of my aunt's funeral. At that point, you end up feeling like there's nothing that you can do to make yourself feel anything. But we get through the day, fly back, and then I start the year. And then there was a girl when I was there. We had a little fling, sort of. At least that's how I saw it. And then I found out that the other guy that she was seeing didn't see it that way because, I mean, obviously he's there. I said, oh, okay. It just felt like an extra cut, especially like in here. But I chose instead to just distance myself. And then, the year ends, and now last year, 2023 comes. I get into an honors program. I'm stoked for that. Um, but I'm doing it part time. So, on some days I don't go to class. It gives me time to study, it gives me time to focus. And then because of that, I got a lot more time to sit with my thoughts than I thought I was going to. And then I got the idea to run a podcast back up again. I deleted all my old stuff. I I still had my microphones, my mic stand, and that weird box thing that just seemed to be a waste of money. But now I was like, I don't even want those things. Like, I want to find a way to do this and make it fresh. But I realized that I may have this dream to want to make something big, but I ain't got no money. I'm broke. All I have is my allowance, which I then have to use to, pay for my car and stuff like that and buy clothes and da da da. So I didn't have any available finances. So I decided to use my phone, like literally. The first couple of episodes of Growing Pains come from this. I would literally sit in my car and I would face the phone up and I'd speak into the speakers at the bottom. And I'd try and be as loud and as clear as possible with my words. Um, and the reason why I call the show Growing Pains is because I went through all of that stuff and I'm still here. And I still have this desire to put myself in a position where people can take my content and then look for things that they relate to. Maybe they tell their friends, they tell their parents, they say, yo, there's this thing that I'm listening to or the show that I'm watching. It's like this guy is really, he's got something here. There's potential. Because I know a lot of us don't feel like we have a safe space to talk about that which we feel. So at least if you have someone that is talking about the thing you don't want to talk about, you can listen and wait for the part that relates to you. And then maybe you'll start thinking about things a little bit more. So that's why I'm here. I had no money, so I had a job that I had this December. I was pet sitting for a friend of mine. and I knew how much like I was gonna get paid, and like I already budgeted. I was like, regardless of where I'm going, if I'm going out, if I'm seeing friends, I need to have this amount of money put aside because I need to find a place that can make this dream a reality. And then from there we push it forward. And I searched, man, long and hard, and I found a place. The place that we're in right now. I mean, I look around and I see all this fancy equipment. It's a literal studio in here. I didn't have this. My studio was my car. My accessories was my damn radio. You feel what I'm saying? And now I'm here and I'm realizing for the first time that it's through taking that action and taking responsibility that you can you can make it to the point that you want it to go to. You just have to put yourself in the position to get there. Do the work that you don't want to do. Oh man, especially when you've got like a dream that's itching, like, when you can't get it out of your head, you have dreams about it. You start seeing things like as you're walking, maybe through a mall or something like that, that relates to the thing that you want to do or that you want to have. At some point, you're going to get fed up with just thinking about it, you know, because a dream that stays in your head is only a fantasy. The dream is supposed to be the match that lights the fire, that ignites you to then commit an action. So this is the proof of holding myself accountable, taking responsibility, and then moving forward. So in terms of taking responsibility, there's one thing that I had to sort of deal with very early on, and it was fear. I had to tackle that fear. Yo, guys, I don't think you understand just how scared I was of doing this. I mean, even this morning, as I was getting ready, you know, and prepping myself to get here in the car as I was driving, I was wondering about what I was going to say, how I was going to say it. Is my voice going to be jumpy? Are there going to come points in the episode where I mess up and I pause and I don't know what to say? I mean, yeah, obviously. But I knew that I worked my butt off to get here. And that fear isn't enough to stop me from really going after what I want to go after. But I think more than anything, when very few people around you are pursuing their real dream, this isn't to say that they're lazy, but like it's easy to say, like, yeah, I'm pursuing my dream when you've got the funds, the resources, the access, the friends, the family that can help you with it. But when you're pursuing the dream and you don't have that, it becomes very difficult to sustain it. So we end up looking at things like securing ourselves for long enough because at least then we know we're safe should things, go to shit. And then we'd have to like start from scratch. Imagine if you're pursuing your dream, you have nothing, and then it crashes. That's something that very few people can make their way back from. And that's something that I was afraid of, even driving here. Like I made it to the point where I could find a studio that could accommodate me. It was very expensive, relatively speaking, considering that like I'm still studying, so I'm like unemployed. But I'd find those odd jobs like the pet sitting I told you guys about. I find like piece jobs here and there just to give myself that extra income so that I can supplement it for my dream. My dream. Like My dream is to be a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, right? Um, because I feel like there's so much that this country has been through that has affected the minds of millions for generations. And I don't think there has been an adequate enough effort to get people to really get it out and speak about how it made them feel, speak about how it affected them, because I'll put it this way. Back then, this is now pre 94 South Africa, people that looked like me, they had it tough. I mean, I'm not just talking about tough, I mean, tough. Imagine thinking about things being life or death every single day. The kind of stress that that puts on your mind is something that very few of us can comprehend. But since those times were tough, they had to be tough. They had to raise their children tough. Those children could be like many of your parents or like my parents, where now that super tough upbringing in that super tough environment under that super tough time obviously molds them into a certain kind of person. But then you get us that were born free, and you you sort of now have to juggle between being a parent from that time, being a new parent, not wanting to be too harsh on your kids because there's no reason for them to feel afraid of you anymore because the times have changed. And, that's one part of why I want to be a shrink because I want to get people to be able to open up about the things that they felt, especially like with our parents and our aunts and uncles and our grandparents. They have been through a lot, and they don't tell you. You might think you know enough, but you never know. You never know everything. There's no one person whose business you know 100%. I have a twin brother. I don't know 100% of his dealings. And I mean, that isn't said we're not close or super close, but I was using that as an example of like everybody has one thing or a couple of things that they keep from everybody. And what I want to do is at least shrink that number to maybe one or two things because you don't want to harbor as many feelings as you can because it builds up like a volcano. And the thing is, when a volcano erupts, there's no way you can control it. The volcano decides how it's going to act, who it's going to hurt. And whilst you might be conscious of the fact that you're hurting the person, the feeling you feel sort of like overpowers you, which is why so many people say they lost their temper. It's not because they're unable to control themselves. Sometimes you do a thing in a certain way because of what you feel, and then you only come back to your senses after the act has been done. Speaking on that, there's another reason as to why I want to be a psychologist. The rage, the anger, the violence um, that's affecting the country. You know, speaking on gender-based violence more specifically, I follow all these pages, like Keep the Energy and like Women for Change. You like it's pretty much almost every day or every couple of days that there's an update. This young lady has been killed. This young lady was found in a bush. This lady was hacked to death. All these kinds of very serious kinds of evil. And it makes one wonder what leads another person to doing that. A lot of people that can commit such acts of violence experienced an extreme degree of violence themselves when they were younger. But they're not going to talk about it. They're not going to tell you, like, hey, man, I've been through so much stuff if they're committing these kinds of acts. It's very rare that you can find someone confess to the feelings they have and also act in such a way. It's usually one or the other, it's never both. And we need more shrinks in our communities, especially, in our working class communities going down, because in as much as I won't say it's as great as suburban life, but it's cool in a whole other kind of way. It's more communal. There's a togetherness that you feel when you're in a place like Soweto, for example, that you'll never feel if you're in a suburb. It just doesn't work that way. The walls aren't high, so it doesn't feel like you're closing yourself off from your neighbors. But we still have the problems because there aren't enough resources to go around. And, you know, when the money isn't there, people end up doing desperate things. And, obviously the consequences of those are dire. And we don't have an outlet to express that frustration that we have with the way things are. So I would like to someday have an organization that works in these communities. And it's like, yo, like come through, let it out, as much of it as you can, so that when you leave here, you don't think about going and doing something stupid simply because you feel frustrated. One day is one day. We'll see how things go. And the last reason for why I want to be a clinician is a more personal feeling. Um, so I did speak about it in a couple of my episodes before. These are episodes that are not on YouTube. These are episodes that are on Apple Podcast, speaking about men and masculinity, especially in the modern era that we're living in. I think, you know, the content a lot of us guys consume, especially relating to how we should be as men in society, hasn't worked to our benefit in the way that we thought it would. I think we have gone to an extreme that very few are able to guide themselves back from. You look at things like your Fresh and Fit podcasts, you look at these red pill pages on Instagram, on TikTok, they're even on Twitter. And you read like the content that they're posting, the videos. I remember because at a time I was like heavy into that kind of stuff. You know, I was like, yeah, these guys are talking about being a high value man and like a woman has to be submissive. I was like, okay, let's hear what it's about because like the high value man thing, like I think I can rock with that. Um, and then after some soul searching, I realized that this is actually all bullshit. Um, these guys are being weird. They're presenting you with an extreme form of rashness, of impulsivity, this pursuit of getting as much money as you can and then sleeping with as many women as possible to make yourself, the most macho man there is. And then a lot of guys say, yeah, no, this is the way. Like these guys are speaking the truth. And then they speak about how, women are hypergamous by nature. Hypergamy, just to like make a complicated word simple, hypergamy basically infers that women have this innate nature to date above. Their loyalty is very limited. It's saying something like a woman is always looking out for the best option, which is why they then end up saying things like, she's not your girl, it's just your turn. What the fuck? I mean, I don't think that that's true at all. I think what that does is it polarizes a lot of men. A lot of men that were already shy and anxious around women then feed into this content. And it's like, well, fuck you guys anyway. And that's not what the world needs. We need the kind of masculinity that encourages courage, knowledge, respect, empathy, care. This isn't to say that you're sacrificing things like strength, anger, and violence. You know, a man that is protective can be protective in two ways. They can show it in the way that they care, and then they can also show it in violence if there's a situation that requires a perpetrator to be stopped from committing a certain kind of action. But it's a fear that I've had, because a lot of guys are talking about how they're high value men. And I ask myself, what is that? A lot of guys saying like, well, high value guys don't like when girls do this. But where's your proof of your value? Most of these guys are calling themselves high value men without earning that value itself. Because they've been led to believe that by consuming content from so and so often enough, the way your mindset changes, you end up becoming high value just by associating yourself with that podcast or whatnot. I said to myself, nah, dog, nah, that ain't it. And, for me, my source of, I guess you could say, masculine um, presence, a masculine figure, let's put it that way. The first person that I think of is obviously my father. Um, you know, it's not just that my dad gave me the best life that he could afford. No, it's not limited to that. He gave me the best life that was available, even if at times he couldn't afford it. But I mean, he always paid. He would sometimes tell me about like, yo, the school, dude, it's expensive. And then he'd say, no, but I've got to pay it because as your father, I have a responsibility to give you the best that I can find. And, I went to one of the best schools, especially for high school in Pretoria. I'm not going to say the name. Um, nah, I'm just playing. I went to a school called Woodhill College for high school. And I mean, that school was great for me in two ways. So, number one, because it was a private school and the classes were smaller, I was able to get more attention. Not to say that I was slow or anything, but I tend to be inquisitive and ask quite a few questions. And my grades improved, like, bruh, a lot. But the second thing, which relates more to what I'm talking about, the school saved my life because I was at another high school before and it was an all boys school and things didn't go well. If you know what I mean, you'll get it. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. The first episode of my podcast on Apple discusses that in a little bit more detail. So go check that out. um, so I go to that school and it's different. My dad was like, yeah, no, you now have this opportunity. I need you to do as much as you can so that you put yourself in the best possible position when you start now looking for things after high school, like varsity and things like that. But that's not the only way that my dad has been a solid figure for me, because that's the one part. My dad has been a solid figure in so many others. For example, with how to deal with women, like interacting with them, especially because I was speaking about how we have such a distorted view on how men and women ought to interact. and this red pill shit has, pretty much fucked up a lot of people's heads. And my dad, one time, he sat me down and he was like, "Yo, so when are you getting a girlfriend?" And I was like, "Ah, Doug, come on, man. Like, I don't have time for that. I've got to study and all that stuff." And he said, "I don't know, okay. But like, how are things with you and like women in general?" And I said, "I mean, they're cool. Like, I've got lady friends. We hang out, we party, it's chilled." He's like, "Yes. Is there a woman that you like?" Yeah. At the time there was. Um, and he said something to me. I don't remember it verbatim, but it went along these kinds of lines. He said, "Make sure that when you're getting to know this person, it's like a blank page. Because you don't want to go in there with your own preconceptions about who this person is. Because expectations most of the time, most of the time, listen to me. I told you guys that this is my first time. I'm nervous as hell." Most of the time, when you walk in there with expectations, it leads to disappointment. Which is why there's a saying like, don't meet your heroes, they will disappoint you. In this instance, this girl that I liked, I sort of had an idea of who she was. I didn't know her well enough to have an informed opinion, but I was trying to inform an opinion based off of our discussions. And my dad was like, "No, no, no. Go in there clean, like nothing. Let her fill the page for you. And then from there, you'll be able to decide what it is you want to do." Okay. But that advice changed the way that I interacted with not just women, but people in general. It was like, and it's only in hindsight that you realize these kinds of things, But once I realized it, I was like, I am so grateful for the fact that he taught me that one simple thing. He's shown me what it means to respect somebody. He's shown me what it means to be an upright man, what it means to stand on your beliefs without being disrespectful to another person's beliefs, which is difficult because everybody thinks their opinion is the most important opinion and everybody thinks that they are right. And it's not just that I disagree with you. If it was just that I disagree with you, then we could have a discussion. Most people think my opinion is right. I disagree with you, not just because I don't believe what you believe, but also because you are wrong. And it's true that then my dad also taught me how to be rational. I'm not always rational. Um, I have a lot of moments where I get a little over the top with my frustration. And I mean, it's tough. It's like having to deal with yourself. I mean, and especially because I'm studying to be a shrink, so I do know like some things. So I psychologize myself at times to calm myself down, and it works, but not always. Um, but through being rational, I'm able to see the parts of myself that I'm using to lash out, but ignoring to recognize as a feeling. And that was something I realized, and I thought, yeah, this is good for me, for my brothers, and I wish that we had a lot more influences of people like my father in as many places around this country, because I think a lot of things would change. And I mean, I'm not trying to say that I know everything. I'm not trying to say that I am an expert. I'm not. I'm only 24 years old. In terms of life, I know nothing. I'm still living with my parents. I'm still studying, so I still have to, go through the stress of looking for a job and things like that. But also, I've lived a rather coddled existence. And, with this show, for example, it's my attempt to break out of the safety net, um, to pursue something for me that I define for myself, that I want for myself, that I paid for myself, that I worked for myself. Because when you take ownership and you pursue the dream for real, in as much as you'll struggle in the beginning and the middle, which then ends up feeling like the beginning again. Then you get back to the middle, then you level up and you get to the top. All those struggles between are all necessary. Pursuing the dream is not fun. In many instances, it feels like hell. It feels like you are trying to create the best thing possible in your head and then being crushed with the reality that it's probably not going to look like that in the beginning. It's probably going to look like shit, brother. It's not it's not about it looking good or bad in the beginning. It's about beginning, right? And very few people are able to begin because once they realize that, okay, this is actually kind of tough, it's like, nah, I'm not. Mm-mm. And I understand it because I've been in situations where I've had things that I've wanted to do, and I was like, nah, bruh. It reminds me of like when I was younger, and like the first thing I ever wanted to be was an actor, like a real, like I wanted to be the South African Leonardo DiCaprio, dog. I was, I was in love with acting, and then, I mean, for years I was dead set on it, and then a friend of mine, I think we must have been in our teens now. He said to me, he's like, "Bruh, do you know the kind of money that this country has for actors?" I was like, "Bro, it's not that much." The reality was sort of like dwindling my dream. But eventually I grew out of it because, in growing up you like a lot of things, you want to do a lot of things. You're good at some things, you're bad at others. So eventually I grew out of the dream. But then the dream, the big dream that I had that started when I was around 18, it's the same dream I have now. It's just that through the years it's been tweaked and modified a little bit. And I it's actually kind of funny because I remember I had a fitness brand. So like my dream was to be the one of the greatest motivators in the history of the world. I didn't say motivational speaker. No, no, no. Motivator. I wanted to be the guy that got your ass out of bed. You would listen to my shows or you'd watch my videos and you'd be inspired to go into the gym. And then when you're in the gym, my influence is still there because people are rocking my apparel. People are using my merch. They're tagging me in their videos and they're posing in the mirror. But it doesn't stop there either because after the gym, then I have these fitness products. Um, and I went to the CIPC and I registered a business. I won't say what name it was. And I was like, I'm going to create the next USN. For those that don't know, USN is South African. Yeah, that brand that sponsors those bodybuilders like Ryan Terry and them. Yeah, it's South African, brother. So I wanted to create the next USN and I wanted to become like I don't know if you guys have seen Eric Thomas, if you've ever heard of who he is, if you've ever watched his content, but he is probably one of the greatest motivators in the history of mankind. I mean, I used to, especially during COVID, I used to watch his stuff all the time because I did get COVID during that time, and I was down in the dumps and I'd watch his content, and it felt like he was speaking to my spirit. And I try and do the same thing, on my phone. I try and post like these messages, and I'm like, yo, today is the day that you say I'm gonna win. I'll say things like, a man cannot discover new oceans until he grows the courage to lose sight of the shore. You know, I was deep. I was deep. Um, so I tried these things, and now with the modification that I was talking about, I'm instead doing it this way. I'm trying to motivate people with the things that I'm talking about. I'm trying to get in here and get in here. When we get more episodes in and a lot more hype and a lot more interest, there will be guests. I won't be doing this by myself because I don't want you guys sitting there for like 30, 40 minutes to an hour and you're saying, bro, is this motherfucker still talking? You know? Um, but the goal is to really get people to start analyzing themselves and motivating yourself. And then after a while, you realize that you don't need motivation. You just stand on business and you get the damn thing done. Yeah. So that's for me like the dream, to become someone that the world can see as a motivator, as someone with depth, I guess, as someone with an understanding about the complexities of being human. But then, as with all things, we have to be patient. And it's very difficult for me to be patient. But I've come to realize that when you put yourself in the position to do something, you have to inform yourself that it is not going to be immediate. But not just that, you have to realize that even though things are going to be slow, expect them to be slower and then even slower than that. Why? Because at least then you can do as much as you can whilst knowing that it's not going to stop here. So it's like, if you're thinking in let's say 3 months you're gonna go from 0 to 100, make the expectation, guys. The nerves are kicking my ass. Can you believe it? I fucked up again. But anyways, um, the expectation should be lowered to maybe 0 to 20. There's a big difference between 0 to 20 and 0 to 100, but when you keep it at 20, you'll probably find that if you put as much effort in as 0 to 100, you'll probably pass 20 in no time. And then you'll maybe get to like 28, maybe like 32. But then once you realize that you did a little bit much more, you grew a little bit much more, you got a different result than what you expected. And you're like, okay, no, I can tap into this now. And I start stacking. Because the only way to be great at anything is to have a stack of irrefutable, undeniable proof that you're great. Um, so with me saying things like I want to be, a great motivator and things like that, that's well and fine. Anybody can do that. Anybody can say it. But you need to have your stack. So what's my stack? Well, so far I tried something. I had a podcast before. It flopped. I I threw it away. I let go of the dream. I was doing other things, but the thing was still feeding me. It was giving me nightmares at times. So what else did I do? I found piece jobs. I did house sitting and pet sitting in one go for a friend of mine 2 years ago. I used that money to get myself back in that playing field. I then waited, with my studies and stuff to then complete, and then I did the house sitting, I mean the pet sitting thing now with my friend's dog, and I made some money there, and then I put it to the side and I said, nah, that we're gonna do this thing now. So then I didn't even waste any time. I sent a DM to Justice Studios. That's where I'm at. Shout out to these guys for really putting me on. I really appreciate this. I sent them a DM. I said, yo, like, I want to do this. I want to make it happen. And then I wanted to show them that I was committed. There's a deposit fee and then there's a full payment. And I said, no, 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 we're not doing no deposit, full payment. Boom. I wanted you to see that, like, I'm not trying to play games anymore. I'm in this now. So I paid the damn thing. I remember the days leading up to today because I paid it, I think, what, like Monday or something. I pay it. Like, yeah, nah, it's about that time. So the days leading up to it, I'm thinking about what I'm gonna say, what I'm gonna do. Oh my gosh, like, is this gonna be a freestyle or is this gonna be a guided thing? Um, are people gonna like it or they're not? And I said, you know what? Regardless of what people think, I'm here and I'm here to do the damn thing. I'm here to talk to you, to everybody. I'm here to talk to the people that are listening. I'm here to talk to the people that are watching. I'm here to talk to the people that support me. I'm here to talk to the people that want me to fail because it doesn't even matter. I'm here now. So I settle the payment and then I write in this personalized book of mine. See, it's got my name over there. Um, Everything I'm going to speak about today. And, now we're on the last point. And the last point is my wish for myself and for everybody that's watching, and everybody that's listening. So like you heard how like hyped up I got like that last minute or so. My wish is that you guys can feel that kind of fire for yourselves. The thing that you can do, the thing that you want to do, tap into that. It's not going to be easy, and it shouldn't be, because nothing great comes easy. You should feel like things are flopping right now because they should be. You've got to do the damn thing. My wish is that you guys have more meaningful and more impactful relationships. I want you guys to feel like you're speaking to someone or you're engaging with someone that you love all the time. Because if COVID was any indication of how quickly you can lose somebody, then we shouldn't be wasting our time with people that don't feed our souls, don't nourish our spirit. But that doesn't mean that you then have to be selfish. Now, let me explain what I mean. A lot of the times on social media, we get people talking about, like, you don't know what you lost when you lost me because I am like the greatest, kindest soul ever. The problem is, everybody thinks like that. So somebody's lying. It might be you. So you need to check yourself. Here's what I say: I know what I do for people, but I also know the ways in which I fail them. So if they don't want to be friends or something like that anymore, I understand. But for this year, my wish is that you guys get to see things for the full picture that they are. You you stop being timid and hiding behind the shell of I can't afford it, I don't have time, I don't have the energy. There's just so much else going on. If you want it, you'll find a way to make it happen. Look at me, man. I didn't travel for December. Me and my family, we didn't go on like a holiday or anything because every single day I had to go and check on homeboy's dog. Now most people say, "Oh man, didn't your December suck?" No, it didn't suck. I had fun still in other ways, but I knew what I was doing this for. I wanted to be the guy that commits to something and then does the damn thing, and I did it. You feel what I'm saying? And it was a great feeling. It really was. Uh, so I'm not mad. Um, Now the wish for myself, apart from the success of the show, which I know is going to be inevitable, there will be people that doubt. There will be people that hate, but we're just gonna win. We're gonna keep winning, brother. Um, my wish for myself is to be more aware of what I feel, what other people feel, and be more appreciative of the time that I have with people, because you never know who you're gonna lose. I've got a nephew. He's a little baby now. Um, But that dude, man, I would do anything in the world for that boy. Sometimes I don't show it because kids can be a little annoying, and it's kind of like, yo, dog, like chill. But that's my boy, you know. And seeing him grow so far has been very interesting for me, because I'm still young. So it's like he's helping me grow up as well in a way. Um, when I'm around him, I'm calm. If he does something to like make me mad or something, when he walks away, then I'll be like, bruh. But when he's there, nah. Um, I value life more because of him. There've been instances where I've changed him, and I don't know, like the way he looks at me, it's sort of like, yo, man, you really doing this? And I look at him like, bruh, I'm really doing this. Apart from that, I hope that people find value in what I have to say. And then from there, we all take this journey together. Progressing isn't easy, but with growth comes pain. You can't have one without the other. I'd like to thank each and every single one of you guys for sitting here as long as you did, for listening as long as you did, um, for looking right into the screen and saying that I know this guy or I don't know this guy. He's got potential. I don't like what he has to say. Regardless, I want to thank you guys for everything so far. And I want you to know that this is only the beginning. We're only getting started. Now let's get to it.